Hello! Today we're going to be talking about Anthem Chapter 1, Part 1. So our learning targets for today will be to learn the terms sin, transgression, atone, and mandates as they pertain to the society in Anthem. Students will compare their society to that of the one in Anthem. This shows collectivism versus individuality, and students will answer multiple choice questions based on evidence from the text. All right, so we need to look at the ideas of individuality versus collectivism. So we have to talk about the idea of collectivism, meaning everyone in the society works for the good of the society. Everyone makes exactly the same money. Everyone is told by the government what they do because it's all about the society. In the United States, however, we don't have a collectivist version of society. We have individuality. So think of all the things that you get to do every single day to choose who you are and who you want to be. So let's start by getting up in the morning. You choose whether you get out of bed or not. Now, some of you may not have a choice if you have someone standing over you telling you need to wake up and go to school. All right, but that is ultimately a choice. You choose the clothes that you want to wear that day. You choose the types of foods that you want to eat. If you are in a situation where you have free time, you choose the things that you want to do with that. Now, as a kid, yes, your choices are a little more limited than as an adult. But, once you become legally an adult, you get to make those choices for yourself. You get to choose what kind of job you want to do, whether you go to college or you don't go to college. Where you want to live, what you want to wear every day, what you want to eat every day, who your friends are, who you want to talk to, who you don't want to talk to, who you want to date, who you don't want to date. These are all choices that make you an individual. All right. In a collectivist society, you don't really have all of these choices. So that's something to consider. And in this novel, that's definitely a problem. So imagine you couldn't choose your job, your clothes, your friends, a partner, your leisure activities, what you do in your fun time. You couldn't write, whether it's a text message or a letter or a paper or, whatever. You couldn't write. There were no books. There were no publications of any kind. Not to mention, no modern technologies. You don't have video games. You don't have a television. You don't have a phone. All right? There's no access to learning beyond a certain age. One of the great things about life is that you can continue to learn no matter how old you are. You can continue to learn up until the day you die. You just have to choose to do so. And while we're on that subject, by the time you're 40, you're considered useless. Keep in mind, most of your teachers are over 40. So how different would life be if this were the case? Very. Now, chances are you would be born into a society like this, so you wouldn't know the difference. But those of you now that are reading this PowerPoint and watching this video, you know what the difference would be. All right? So these are things you need to keep in mind when you're reading Anthem. So in this novel, characters don't question anything, but you, as the reader, should question everything. How did this happen to society? Why do people just accept the way things are? What are they being told? Who is telling them this? These are all of the things that you should have in the back of your mind as you are reading Anthem. All right, so now we're going to start the reading. You're going to see that some of the words are in bold. If you look over on the right-hand side, you will see that those words are vocabulary words that are defined for you. So if you don't understand what the word is, go over and look at it. There's also some little things on the side that are just things to keep in mind. If it's a question, you don't have to actually answer the question. Just keep these things in mind, and periodically I will stop and refer to these notes on the side, or I may add notes to it as I go. All right. Anthem by Ayn Rand, Chapter 1, Part 1. It is a sin to write this. It is a sin to think words no others think, and to put them down upon a paper no others are to see. It is base and evil. It is as if we were speaking alone to no one to no ears but our own. And we know well that there is no transgression blacker than to do or think alone. We have broken the laws. The laws say that men may not write unless the Council of Vocations bid them so. May we be forgiven. All right, so this is something to look into, is that idea of, remember, he is going to say we when he really means me. All right, so keep that in mind. And we know we have broken these laws. He's really, in this case, saying me. So what they're saying in the beginning of this is that it's considered a crime to write without permission to do so. Unless you are a scholar, you can't write. You can't put your thoughts down on a piece of paper. All right, so this is the kind of world that he is living in. But this is not the only sin upon us. We have committed a greater crime, and for this crime there is no name. What punishment awaits us if it be discovered we know not, for no such crime has come in the memory of men, and there are no laws to provide for it. It is dark here. The flame of the candle stands still in the air. Nothing moves in this tunnel save our hand on the paper. We are not alone under the earth. It is a fearful word, alone. The laws say that none among men may be alone ever and at any time, for this is the great transgression and the root of all evil. But we have broken many laws, and now there is nothing here save our one body, and it is strange to see only 2 legs stretched on the ground, and on the wall before us the shadow of our one head. All right, so it is against the law to be alone at any time or think only for yourself. If you are alone, that means you could possibly have thoughts that would benefit only you. All right, so this is a crime, him being alone in the dark, writing, and not with the rest of his community. The walls are cracked, and water runs upon them in thin threads without sound, black and glistening as blood. We stole the candle from the larder of the home of the street sweepers. We shall be sentenced to 10 years in the palace of corrective detention, if it be discovered. But this matters not. It matters only that the light is precious, and we should not waste it to write when we need it for that work which is our crime. Nothing matters save the work, our secret, our evil, our precious work. Still, we must also write, for may the council have mercy upon us, and we wish to speak for once to no ears but our own. Our name is Equality 7-2521, as it is written on the iron bracelet which all men wear on their left wrists with their names upon it. We are 21 years old. We are 6 feet tall, and this is a burden, for there are not many men who are 6 feet tall. Ever have the teachers and the leaders pointed to us and frowned and said, "There is evil in your bones, Equality 7-2521, for your body has grown beyond the bodies of your brothers. But we cannot change our bones nor our body. We were born with a curse. It has always driven us to thoughts which are forbidden. It has always given us wishes which men may not wish. We know that we are evil, but there is no will in us and no power to resist it. This is our wonder and our secret fear, that we know and do not resist." So the author is basically establishing the fact that the character is different from the rest of his society simply because he's taller than the rest. You had no control over how tall you will be, over what color hair and eyes you will be born with. These are things that he can't control. But he's taller than pretty much everybody else in society, therefore it's a crime. All right? Imagine that any difference or any quirk that you have that's not like other people would be considered a crime. This is the society that we are living in, and he has been belittled for this since he was a child. He acknowledges that you can't change your bones, all right, or your body, but nobody else in society does that. So it sets up the fact that he is a logical person, but no one else is. We strive to be like our brother men, for all men must be alike. over the portals of the palace of the World Council, there are words cut in the marble, which we repeat to ourselves whenever we are tempted. We are one in all and all in one. There are no men, but only the great we, only one, indivisible and forever. So the Great Society is the only thing that matters in this world. Each individual works only for the society and not themselves. That's essentially what this is saying. Indivisible means you can't be divided, kind of like our Pledge of Allegiance that we say every day. This is almost like a Pledge of Allegiance. We repeat this to ourselves, but it helps us not. These words were cut long ago. There is green mold in the grooves of the letters and yellow streaks on the marble, which come from more years than men could count. And these words are the truth, for they are written on the palace of the World Council, and the World Council is the body of all truth. Thus has it been ever since the Great Rebirth, and further back than that no memory can reach. But we must never speak of the times before the Great Rebirth, else we are sentenced to 3 years in the Palace of Corrective Detention. It is only the old ones who whisper about it in the evenings in the home of the useless. They whisper many strange things of the towers which rose to the sky in those unmentionable times, and of the wagons which moved without horses, and of the lights which burned without flame. But those times were evil, and those times passed away, when men saw the great truth, which is this, that all men are one, and that there is no will save the will of all men together. All men are good and wise. It is only we, equality, we alone who were born with a curse, for we are not like our brothers. And as we look back upon our life, we see that it has ever been thus, and that it has brought us step by step to our last supreme transgression, our crime of crimes hidden here under the ground. So here is where that questioning in your head should start. What's the Great Rebirth? What happened? Why was there a rebirth in society? What happened to the old things? And this is not that long ago. They're basically talking of a time that we live in now, where we had cars instead of horse-drawn wagons, where we had electricity instead of candles. So it's not that long ago, and people still remember it. Those are the people who are in the house of the useless. Remember, those are the people over 40. They discuss it. So this is not something that, has happened hundreds of years ago. This is something that has happened within the lifetime of someone who is my age. All right. And how did the great truth come to be? Where does this truth come from? Who is the one making the truth? And that's what has to be thought of here. We remember the home of the infants where we lived till we were 5 years old, together with all the children of the city who had been born in the same year. The sleeping halls there were white and clean and bare of all things save 100 beds. We were just like all our brothers then, save for the one transgression. We fought with our brothers. There are few offenses blacker than to fight with our brothers, at any age and for any cause whatsoever. The council of the home told us so. And of all the children of that year, we were locked in the cellar most often. So the kids here are not raised in families, but in one place for all children. Every year, 100 children are born. All of those children are raised together and move through society as a group. This is very similar to The Last Dog. It's a way to control population. It's a way to make sure that everybody who is in the 1 year that they are all born stays together as one group, and all of those years up to 40 make the group that makes up society. So it's the larger part that makes up the whole, basically. And he talks about how he was locked in the cellar as a child, so that was a standard punishment for him in his home for the infants. When we were 5 years old, we were sent to the home of the students, where there were 10 wards for our 10 years of learning. Men must learn until they reach their 15th year. Then they go to work. In the home of the students, we arose when the big bell rang in the tower, and we went to our beds when it rang again. Before we removed our garments, we stood in the great sleeping hall, and we raised our right arms, and we said all together, with the 3 teachers at the head, "We are nothing, mankind is all. By the grace of our brothers are we allowed our lives. We exist through, by, and for our brothers, who are the state. Amen." So this is like a bedtime prayer that they say to remind them that the society is the only thing that is important. Then we slept. The sleeping halls were white and clean and bare of all things, save 100 beds. We, equality, were not happy in those years in the home of the students. It was not that the learning was too hard for us. It was the learning was too easy. This is a great sin, to be born with head which is too quick. It is not good to be different from our brothers, but it is evil to be superior to them. The teachers told us so, and they frowned when they looked upon us. So we fought against this curse. We tried to forget our lessons, but we always remembered. We tried not to understand what the teachers taught, but we always understood it before the teachers had spoken. We looked upon Union 5-3992, who were a pale boy with only half a brain, and we tried to say and do as they did, that we might be like them, like Union. But somehow the teachers knew that we were not, and we were lashed more often than all the other children. So again, here's another thing that sets him apart from his society, is that he's naturally smart. Sometimes you can't help that. You can always learn more, but, people sometimes are born with, an ability to memorize quickly or, pick up ideas faster than others. And because of this, because he's smart, once again, it's kind of the opposite of what you would expect, like examination day, he gets beaten or whipped for it, because it's a crime to be smarter and superior, even though he doesn't think himself more superior than everybody else. So he tries to be like his friend Union, who is kind of dim-witted. And you'll find out why he's not quite 100% right in the head. The teachers were just, for they had been appointed by the councils, and the councils are the voice of all justice, for they are the voice of all men. And if sometimes, in the secret darkness of our heart, we regret that which befell us on our 15th birthday, we know that it was through our own guilt. We had broken a law, for we had not paid heed to the words of our teachers. The teachers had said to us all, "Dare not choose in your minds the work you would like to do when you leave the home of the students. You shall do that which the Council of Vocations shall prescribe for you. For the Council of Vocations knows in its great wisdom where you are needed by your brother men, better than you can know it in your unworthy little minds. And if you are not needed by your brother men, there's no reason for you to burden the earth with your bodies." So they go to school until they're 15, which is about your 10th grade year, right? And then they go to work, and the council chooses their job for them. And basically they're saying, don't choose what you want to do, because it doesn't matter what your job is. The only thing that matters is that you're useful to society. And if you're not useful to society, you're of no use, and you should just be gone. And that's essentially the harsh reality of this world that equality was born into. We knew this well in the years of our childhood, but our curse broke our will. We were guilty, and we confess it here. We were guilty of the great transgression of preference. We preferred some work and some lessons to the others. We did not listen well to the history of the councils elected since the great rebirth, but we loved the science of things. We wished to know about all the things which make the earth around us. We asked so many questions that the teachers forbade it. We think that there are mysteries in the sky, under the water, and in the plants which grow. But the Council of Scholars has said that there are no mysteries, and the Council of Scholars knows all things. And we learned much from our teachers. We learned that the earth is flat, and the sun revolves around it, which causes the day and the night. We learned the names of all the winds which blow over the seas and push the sails of our great ships. we learned how to bleed men to cure them of all ailments. We loved the science of things, and in the darkness, in the secret hour when we awoke in the night, and there were no brothers around us, but only their shapes in the beds and their snores, we closed our eyes, and we held our lips shut, and we stopped our breath, that no shudder might let our brothers see or hear or guess, and we thought that we wished to be sent to the home of the scholars when our time would come. All the great modern inventions come from the home of the scholars, such as the newest one, which was found only 100 years ago, of how to make candles from wax and string, also how to make glass, which is put in our windows to protect us from the rain. To find these things, the scholars must study the earth and learn from the rivers, from the sands, from the winds and the rocks. And if we went to the home of the scholars, we could learn from these also. We could ask questions of these, for they do not forbid questions, and questions give us no rest. We know not why our curse makes us seek. We know not what ever and ever, but we cannot resist it. It whispers to us that there are great things on this earth of ours, and that we can know them if we try, and that we must know them. We ask, why must we know? But it has no answer to give us. We must know that we may know. All right, so here you've got the smartest people in society, and they don't know anything. The earth isn't flat, and the sun doesn't revolve around the earth. We know this now, but they've gone back to ancient ways of learning. It's like every ounce of education that they had before the Great Rebirth was completely wiped off the face of the planet, and in one generation has been completely forgotten. So now they're making candles, which they made, thousands of years ago. They made glass, which we've had the knowledge of making for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So they're going back to old technology. And you have to think about why. Was it that society became too modern and the modernity of society brought down everyone, so they thought they'd go back to an easier way of life? Is it that they wanted to really completely control how people learned and thought and produced things? We have no idea. Okay? But it's that idea that modern ways of thinking are completely abolished from the society. So we wished to be sent to the home of the scholars. We wished it so much that our hands trembled under the blankets in the night, and we bit our arm to stop that other pain which we could not endure. It was evil, and we dare not face our brothers in the morning, for men may wish nothing for themselves, and we were punished when the Council of Vocations came to give us our life mandates, which tell those who reach their 15th year what their work is to be for the rest of their days. The Council of Vocations came on the first day of spring, and they sat in the great hall, and we, who were 15, and all the teachers came into the great hall, and the Council of Vocations sat on a high dais, and they had but 2 words to speak to each student. They called the students' names, and when the students stepped before them, one after another, the council said, "Carpenter," or "Doctor," or "Cook," or "Leader." Then each student raised their right arm and said, "The will of our brothers be done." Now, if the council has said carpenter or cook, the students so assigned go to work, and they do not study any further. But if the council has said leader, then those students go into the home of the leaders, which is the greatest house in the city. For it has 3 stories, and there they study for many years, so that they may become candidates and be elected to the city council, and the state council, and the world council, by a free and general vote of all men. But we wish not to be a leader, even though it is a great honor. We wish to be a scholar. So we awaited our turn in the great hall, and then we heard the Council of Vocations call our name, Equality 7-2521. We walked to the dais, and our legs did not tremble, and we looked up at the council. There were 5 members of the council, 3 of the male gender and 2 of the female. Their hair was white, and their faces were cracked as the clay of dry riverbed. They were old. They seemed older than the marble of the temple of the World Council. They sat before us, and they did not move, and we saw no breath to stir the folds of the white togas, but we knew that they were alive, for a finger of the hand of the oldest rose, pointed to us, and fell down again. This is the only thing which moved, for the lips of the oldest did not move as they said, "Street sweeper." We felt the cords of our neck grow tight as our head rose higher to look upon the faces of the council, and we were happy. We knew we had been guilty, but now we had a way to atone for it, and we could accept our life mandate, and we would work for our brothers gladly and willingly, and we would erase our sin against them, which they did not know, but we knew. So we were happy and proud of ourselves and of our victory over ourselves. We raised our right arm, and then we spoke, and our voice was the clearest, the steadiest voice in the hall that day, and we said, "The will of our brothers be done." And we looked straight into the eyes of the council, but their eyes were as cold blue glass buttons. So the idea that one of the smartest young men in this society is going to be made a street sweeper, and chances are it's probably a punishment because he was so smart. So what does that tell you about the great council and the leaders and all of the people who are meant to be the highest positions in society, even though no one is higher than anybody else? And that's the thing you have to wonder is, if no one is better than anybody else, then why does someone get a better job than someone else gets? All right. So we went into the home of the street sweepers. It is a gray house on a narrow street. There is a sundial in its courtyard by which the council of the home can tell the hours of the day and when to ring the bell. When the bell rings, we all rise from our beds. The sky is green and cold in our windows to the east. The shadow on the sundial marks off a half hour while we dress and eat our breakfast in the dining hall, where there are 5 long tables with 20 clay plates and 20 clay cups on each table. Then we go to work in the streets of the city with our brooms and our rakes. In 5 hours, when the sun is high, we return to the home and we eat our midday meal, for which 1/2 hour is allowed. Then we go to work again. In 5 hours, the shadows are blue on the pavements, and the sky is blue with deep brightness, which is not bright. We come back to have our dinner, which lasts 1 hour. Then the bell rings, and we walk in a straight column to one of the city halls for the social meeting. Our columns of men arrive from the homes of the different trades. The candles are lit, and the councils of the different homes stand in a pulpit, and they speak to us of our duties and of our brother men. Then visiting leaders mount the pulpit, and they read to us the speeches which were made in the city council that day. And for the city council represents all men, and all men must know. Then we sing hymns, the hymn of brotherhood, and the hymn of equality, and the hymn of collective spirit. The sky is soggy purple when we return to the home. Then the bell rings, and we walk in a straight column to the city theater for 3 hours of social recreation. There, a play is shown upon the stage with 2 great choruses from the home of the actors, which speak and answer all together. In 2 great voices, the plays are about toil and how good it is. Then we walk back to the home in a straight column. The sky is like a black sieve pierced by silver drops that tremble ready to burst through. The moths beat against the street lanterns. We go to our beds, and we sleep till the bell rings again. The sleeping halls are white and clean and bare of all things, save 100 beds. So every part of the day is mapped out for these people. Even their fun time, their recreation, and I'm going to put air quotes around fun. So someone controls everything they do. So they have to go sit and listen to the council leaders speak. They have to go see a play, which is about toil, which is hard work, and how good hard work is. So think about your entire day just being completely mapped out for you by boring speeches and boring plays and things that, in today's society would be completely unentertaining. They've almost turned the collectivist idea into a religion, because when they go to the council and they listen to people speak, and they sing hymns, and they listen to the speeches of the day, This is almost becoming like a religion. It's almost like a church experience when they do this. And then the theater experience almost plays into that as well, almost as if it were a religious performance. But in this case, they don't have a religion. They don't have a deity that they pray to. They just have the idea of collective society. All right. Thus we have lived each day of our 4 years until 2 springs ago, when our crime happened. Thus must all men live until they are 40. At 40, they are worn out. At 40, they are sent to the home of the useless, where the old ones live. The old ones do not work, for the state take care of them. They sit in the sun in summer, and they sit by the fire in winter. They do not speak often, for they are weary. The old ones know that they are soon to die. When a miracle happens and some live to be 45, they are the ancient ones, and the children stare at them when passing by the home of the useless. Such is to be our life, as that of all our brothers, and of all the brothers who came before us. So basically, only young people are valued in the society, and people don't live long. Why is that? This goes back to ancient times where your life expectancy might be 40 years old. So is it that there's no modern medicine to cure illnesses when people get old? Or is it some other reason? So you basically only get 25 years of adult life to live, and every bit of it is controlled by other people. So you have to look at this thinking, is this a life that's worth living? By our standards, probably not. Yes, we go to work and, we come home and we do our jobs every day, or you go to school and you have essentially 12 years of that, unless you choose to go to college more. But you have choice, you have individuality, you get to choose what you do in your free time. You get vacations. These people don't get vacations. So these are things to think about. By our standards, this isn't a life. But by their standards, this is what they know. This is what everybody does. And this is how they live. This is how they live their best life in the society. So now that we're at the end of the first half of this chapter in the first reading, start thinking to yourself, what do you think by the end of this first reading? What do you think of the society? Do you blame equality for wanting to branch out? What do you think about this? So that's something to, think on and move into the next section on and discuss in class. So now that you have finished, you're going to click on the form that goes with this assignment, and you're going to answer the questions that go with the form. They go in order. Open up the document, put them side by side on a split screen, and look for the answers. There's no reason anyone should be getting less than 90s and 100s on these. If you look for the answer in the text, you will find it. There's no real hard digging going on here. All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next section.